Nike sales are going through the roof, man. It's not only called the Night Stalkers, but they're also penetrators. We're finished, bro. You shouldn't be arguing with someone who's got something that can penetrate. Caracas was on fire. Jeez. And yeah, I guess a couple of people that will enjoy this are Elon Musk and Tesla.
He also said the U.S. will take over the country's oil reserves.
Very important. Very, very important. But you need to know when to stop talking. You should have seen what we did to the last guy from South America that was talking. I don't know what was at that specific spot on at that specific location. Yo, but whatever was there, yeah, it's not there anymore, bruv. Why is Cuba talking? Cuba doesn't even have Wi-Fi. Cuba doesn't even have food, bruv. Why is Miguel Diaz-Canel talking?
Say it so. He does have to watch his ass.
You cannot tell someone, come and get me, because the last guy that said, come and get me, they went and got him. Be quiet, you will end up in a Nike tech fleece. Be quiet. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Welcome back to Vibe Talkers. It's 2026. We're gonna start the year with a very graceful kidnapping.
This is America! Eagles in the night, watch them dive down. This is America! Say you want smoke, hear that live sound. This is America! Freedom feels different when it's standing on your neck. This is America! Eagles.
So if you've been sleeping under a rock and you're not aware of what's happening, if you're still hungover from like New Year, New Me type conversation, welcome to Vibe Talkers. It's 2026. You might just get kidnapped. A lot of talk has been going on about what Donald Trump has just done to the president of Venezuela. Let's chop it up. A lot of people would think that this was spontaneous. A lot of people would think that Donald Trump just woke up and decided he wanted to blow some stuff up. You know, take some Apaches on a test run to a South American country, or as he likes to call it, you know, third world shithole countries. Not my words, President Trump's words. The question is, why did Trump decide to act upon this 6 years later? Not about freedom. Surprise, surprise. It's not about giving anyone any type of freedom. It's about oil. It is about oil. It is about extracting, what is it called? Minerals from the country. And yeah, I guess a couple of people that will enjoy this are Elon Musk and Tesla. Now, a lot of people would say this is about democracy. It's got absolutely nothing to do with democracy. He corroded to transport thousands of tons of cocaine to the United States. Since his early days in the Venezuelan government, Maduro Moros has tarnished every public office he has held.
Capturing Maduro was an audacious snatch and grab operation in Venezuela in the early hours of Saturday morning. A swarm of U.S. military helicopters and special forces units known as the Night Stalkers descended.
Oh my God. Special forces units known as the Night Stalkers. Why would you try it with anything called Night Stalkers, Frogmen, SEALs, Rangers? Why would you try it? Why would you try it? And we're going to get into it in a bit because South American leaders have reacted to this, and a lot of South American leaders need to be careful. Freedom is not too far away from your doorstep. Caracas was on fire. Jeez.
Explosions lit up the sky, and within 2.5 hours of U.S. forces touching down, Maduro and his wife were in custody.
2.5 hours to go into a country, take what they need, and get out. By the time you've woken up for work, taken a shit shave and a shower, done the commuting on public transport, gotten into the clocked in, this would have already happened. Maduro would have already been in a Nike tech fleece by the time you got up and ended up at work. Especially with the British transport system, nothing seems to be working on time.
He also said the U.S. will take over the country's oil reserves.
Very important. Very, very important. A lot of people thought this was about democracy. A lot of people thought this was about freedom. You got to take over these oil reserves. You have to. You have to take over these oil reserves. They did it to Iraq. When they invaded Iraq, took over the oil reserves, brought in a whole bunch of U.S. Oil companies into Iraq, took over the oil reserves, and they're doing it now, again, to Venezuela. So You know, history repeats itself, and and history repeats itself very, very accurately.
serves.
At least 5 strategic targets were also hit.
Whew, she's gorgeous. Also, another thing, it doesn't matter if it's it doesn't matter if it's Bush Senior or Bush Junior or Donald Trump or Barack. None of that matters. History repeats itself, regardless of which president is in power. History will repeat itself.
Colombia's President Gustavo Petro, too, strongly condemned the U.S. action, calling for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council.
Colombia, listen, we love the Latinas, but you need to know when to stop talking. You should have seen what we did to the last guy from South America that was talking. We'll get to the president of Colombia in a second because he's been yapping. He's been yapping. Bruv, I already told you, man. Anyone that's got Apaches, Black Hawk Downs, Rangers, SEALs, what's the name of that team? The Dark Stalkers, the Night Stalker. You need to be careful, bruv. These are people that pick you up while you're on the toilet, bruv. And you haven't even wiped yet. You need to be careful the way you're talking, man. Yeah? Gustavo Petro, I'm coming to Colombia soon. Please allow me at the border. Other than that, yo, be quiet, man. You can end up in a Nike Tech fleece on any given Sunday.
Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel, a staunch supporter of Maduro, is calling for the international community to respond.
Why is Cuba talking? Cuba doesn't even have Wi-Fi. Cuba doesn't even have food, bruv. Why is Cuba talking? Yo, did you not see what we did to the last guy? Have you never heard of the Night Stalkers? Have you never heard of Green Beret, Red Beret, Black Beret, Blue Beret? Why is Cuba talking, bruv? I'll tell you why Cuba's talking. Because a long time ago, Cuba had Russian assistance. But not anymore. A lot of South Americans back in the day, they had assistance from countries like Russia, China, and such. But when it comes to Russia, because of what's happening in Ukraine, Russia is a little bit too preoccupied with that. And they don't really have time to go around defending South American countries. Denuncia y demanda urgente reacciones de la comunidad internacional contra la criminal ataque de EU a Venezuela. Bro, no one cares, bro. No one cares. There's no food in Cuba, bro. There's no food in Cuba. There's no Wi-Fi in Cuba. People are struggling in Cuba. You shouldn't be talking, bro. You will be next, bro. Pigs Bay. Pigs Bay. You will be next, my man.
Germany's foreign ministry says it's watching the situation with great concern and is in close contact with its embassy in Caracas. Meanwhile, Argentina's leader Javier Milei has praised his ally Donald Trump, taking to social...
Hey, man. La libertad avanza. Viva la libertad, carajo. Bro, Javier Milei is very clever to be on Donald Trump's side because you know what will happen to Argentina. You know what will happen to Argentina. We will go down there with the Night Stalkers, yeah? And we will give everyone freedom, bro. American style, yeah? But no, Javier Milei is a very outspoken politician. And yeah, it's good to see that his opinions differ. But then again, you know, listen, you're either America's friend, or you're Russia's friend, or you're China's friend, or you're the United Kingdom's friend. But you can't be out there by yourself and not have any friends. Big friends. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah? Oh my God. Guys, when are these presidents going to learn? Mexico could be next. They jumped over Mexico to get to Venezuela. Don't think they can't, on the way jumping back into America, do a quick little pit stop in Mexico and take out another president, bruv. Big up the Latinas, man. Just going back on that point that I made earlier about why he was indicted in 2020, but it's 2026 that we're going after him. I think at some point he was given a deal. I think at some point they did put something on the table for him and they did tell him, look, you know, you're not doing too well right now. We can come and we can get you whenever we feel like. So how about you just let us into the country and we take a percentage of the oil? And I think he stood on business. I think Maduro stood on business and was like, no, you're not coming here and taking anything. Until the very end when Donald Trump was like, all right, cool. Desperate calls call for desperate times. Desperate times call for desperate calls. And was like, hey, we spoke to you back in 2020. You know, we were ready to let you go, but you didn't want to negotiate, so we'll just take it all. Why is Miguel Diaz-Canel talking?
Como un acto de terrorismo de Estado, un asalto criminal contra nuestra América, zona de paz, una violación de la soberanía de una nación que es símbolo de independencia, dignidad y solidaridad.
Well, I want to establish the facts first. I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies.
Here we go. Keir Starmer, aka the #1 victim, aka it's not my fault, aka we're sorry. Listen, I don't care what Keir Starmer thinks about any of this. Keir Starmer needs to be a good boy. He needs to be quiet, and he needs to speak when spoken to. Before Donald Trump comes in and sons him, which he already has before in the past. But yeah, Keir Starmer, be quiet. Just worry about Sadiq Khan. Just worry about Sadiq Khan. Be quiet, Keir Starmer. No one cares what you think. Your opinion is invalid.
As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that.
Human rights lawyer, by the way. And we'll do another video about Shamima Begum. But that's a human rights lawyer, by the way. Yeah?
And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law. But I think at this stage, fast-moving situation, let's establish the facts and take it from there.
Jeez, man.
Hoy es Venezuela, mañana podría ser cualquier otro. No, як тут відреагувати?
Here we go. Zelensky's back, guys. He's probably back to ask us for more money so that he can fund his wife's lifestyle. Go on, Zelensky. Say something about Trump.
Ну, що я можу сказати? Якщо можна, да, так з диктатором,
If it's possible to deal with dictators this way, then the US knows what to do next.
ось так, то Сполучені Штати Америки знають, що їм робити далі.
That's crazy. That's crazy that he said that. He's basically implying that if the US can deal with Venezuelan dictators, that he should deal with Putin the same way. But Zelensky, you need to be quiet, bruv. You need to be absolutely quiet. Continue begging for money. Just be quiet. Because the world hasn't decided why it's okay for Trump to do it, but not for Putin to do it. Putin is taking over Crimea region and some of Ukrainian region. And everyone calls him names. Everyone says he's a terrorist. Everyone says he's in breach of international law. The whole country of Russia has had sanctions on it. But on the other hand, George Bush Jr. pretty much invaded Iraq. Donald Trump has invaded Venezuela. And yet they don't have the same, quote, titles attached to them. And that's a very interesting point because when I was younger, when I was learning how to speak English, I read a book called Animal Farm. And the most gangster bar that I still live by to this day is that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. And if you don't understand that concept, you need to shut your mouth, worry about your 9 to 5, go to work, pay some taxes, and maybe you will live a good enough life to be able to purchase a property, have a beautiful wife and some beautiful children and a white picket fence. Maybe. For the rest of us, we understand what Animal Farm was all about. It's okay for some people to do it, but it's not okay for others to do it. The same exact thing. The same exact thing. Right, bringing it back to Colombia, because the Colombian president thinks that this is a movie, thinks this is a game. I don't know if you've heard, but they've got something called the Night Stalkers, yeah? I'm guessing their name is the Night Stalkers because they only come out at night. Is it the Night Stalkers? All right, here we go. This is what the Night Stalkers, MH-60M direct action penetrator, brought to the Venezuelan op. Yo, it's not only called the Night Stalkers, but they're also penetrators. We're finished, bro. You shouldn't be arguing with someone who's got something that can penetrate. You understand? You shouldn't be arguing with someone who's a penetrator and called a Night Stalker. You understand? If you're a South American politician, you need to relax your butt. You need to shut up. Yeah? It's all well and fine when you do it on camera and you look like a justice warrior. But bro, penetrator? You don't want that, man. Look at that thing. It's an Apache helicopter? I think it's an Apache helicopter. I don't think I'm wrong. You know, the most gangster thing about this is I met a guy who was from the States. He was from LA and he was a former military person. And then he told me that the reason why Americans are so arrogant, the reason why Americans come off as brash, and the reason why Americans come off as confident is because when it comes to firepower, nobody on this planet can do what Americans do when it comes to firepower. And he was like, part of the American identity is the fact that we will come to your backyard and we will erase it. And we know that we can do that. And that sort of creates like an aura of confidence and an aura of like a little bit of arrogance, knowing that you could decimate people Do you know what I mean? He also told me, because he used to be a pilot, he told me that these Apaches, again, I'm pretty sure this is an Apache. I could be wrong. I don't know. But he told me that this thing here in the front, you see that little sensor at the front, yeah? He told me that the older versions of these helicopters would have an analog that would sort of adjust, you know, where that thing was being pointed to. He has now told me that early technology has allowed them to no longer have to use an analog stick, but simply use head movement. Do you understand? The pilot doesn't need to do anything if he's aiming at you. He just needs to move his head like that, and the gun will move like that. And while you're looking in the sky, doing an Our Father, or whatever it is that you're doing, yeah? Somebody in this chopper is looking at you and is getting ready to separate your limbs. And that's where this comes from. This, we're going to come to your country and we're going to do whatever we want. That's where it comes from. Pure firepower. You see this thing? Penetrator. Night Stalker's MH-60M direct action penetrator. MH-60M, I'm assuming, is the name of the helicopter. Yeah. The hard-hitting attack version of the Special Operations MH-60. You know any British helicopters that are penetrators, my friend? Huh? You know any Venezuelan helicopters that are penetrators? Look at this thing, man. Ugh. Should we see what the penetrator looks like in action?
Mira, pero ven acá, no se metan para acá, no sabemos qué hay ahí que se pueda quedar.
I don't know what was at that specific spot on that at that specific location. Yo, but whatever was there, yeah, it's not there anymore, bruv. Jesus Christ. The scary thing is, if you have to hear something before you see it, it will ignite some kind of fear in you. Because usually the human brain tells you that you have to see something in order to interpret whether or not it's dangerous or not, right? That's why predatory animals like the lions, the tigers, the cheetahs, and all of those things, they're banking on the fact that you can't see them, that you have to hear them first, or maybe by the time you see them, you're dead. Maybe. But that's where a lot of American sort of, not arrogance, but that's where sort of a lot of American feeling towards being the best in the world comes from, is the fact that a Black Hawk, you know, an Apache, you know, the level of firepower that they have is undisputed. It is completely undisputed. So Russia's got some firepower. Yeah, cool story, bro. But America has firepower for days. I'm talking ammo for days. America has so much firepower that they sell their firepower to other countries. Israel, Saudi Arabia, like they just sell it. They have an abundance of it. They're just selling it. You know what I mean? It's a main export. When your country's main export is firepower, you know what time it is. Venezuela's main export is not Black Hawks. It is not MH-60s. It's not Apache helicopters. America's is has a whole lot of freedom, my friend. We've just watched a video of, you know, America giving Venezuela a whole lot of freedom in about 2.5 hours. In about 2.5 hours, America went in and came out. You were still asleep. You probably woke up. You got to the office. By the time you got to the office, clocked in, Maduro was already in a Nike Tech fleece, bruv. You know, so it's all well and good for Colombia to, you know, have a little bit of bravado and a little bit of machismo and talk about we'll take up arms, but it's going to be very, very short and it's going to be very, very quick. If you didn't know what happened to the last guy that was talking a whole bunch of rubbish, you should probably relive the last 5 days in South America.
Don't play games with this president's in office because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine, they're sending it into the United States, so he does have to watch his ass.
Get him, Trump. Get him. Better watch your ass, boy.
Colombianas, porque nos condenaron a 700,000 muertos.
Come get me, coward. I'm waiting for you here. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro replies to Donald Trump after the US president said he's next to be captured. Listen, to the president of Colombia, first off, shouts out all the Latinas. Beautiful, beautiful people that live in Colombia. We have Latinas in London as well. Not that many Latinas from Colombia come to London. Obviously, the weather here sucks, but you do see a Latina once in a while in London, mainly South London. You cannot tell someone, come and get me, because the last guy that said, come and get me, they went and got him. They went and they got him, bruv. Actually, you know what? We're on Instagram right now. Let's head over to the White House. The White House has an Instagram page, which is so gangster. This is the White House Instagram. Now, can you imagine number 10? Can you imagine the Prime Minister of the UK having an Instagram this fire? No chance.
Last night, on the order of the President of the United States, and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro.
Nicolas Maduro had his chance until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
Did he just say he effed around and he found out? He effed around and he found out. Can you imagine the Prime Minister of the UK speaking like that? Can you imagine number 10? Can you imagine him talking like that? Yo, we went over there. You know, they effed around with us. They found out. Donald Trump is literally, could quite literally be the most American president ever. Fully acknowledges the amount of firepower he has at his disposal. Fully acknowledges the fact that that the country will come to you for oil. Fully acknowledges the fact that if you don't like it, who cares? And fully acknowledges the fact that America's firepower is far superior to anything else out there. So if you want to oppose it, go ahead and oppose it. I remember somebody asked him about the United Nations and whether or not he consulted with them before the invasion. And he was like, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Do you know what I mean? Like, who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him?
Venga por mí. Aquí lo espera en Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
And now, if you don't know, now you know.
Oh, hold on. He said, if you don't know, now you know. Oh my God. We're going to get a copyright claim because of that song. But this is bad. This has to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Aquí lo espera en Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
And now, if you don't know, now you know.
If you don't know, now you know. He took a ball from Sky's the Limit. He took a ball from Sky's the Limit. Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima, full night tech fleece. He thought this was a game, bro. Nike sales are going through the roof, man. Nike sales are going through the roof.
Are Labour critics of Venezuela and Donald Trump wrong?
Well, look, people will take different positions on this, but I think the vast majority of Labour voters and supporters, in fact the vast majority of people across the country, would say the most important thing is that peaceful transition to democracy. It's been years in the waiting, and now... Good boy, Kia. Good boy. You behave yourself and you do what you're told. That's a good response. We like that. Be quiet. Do your job. Do your job, Kia. Be quiet and do your job, yeah? Let the big boys talk. Guys, it's really not that complicated. It's really, really not that complicated. I think in conclusion, because the video's been going on for like a couple of minutes, but in conclusion, this is how the world works. You go back to Animal Farm, some animals are more equal than others. Khalas, that is it. That is the end. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you?
Putin can do it, China can do it, America can do it. The United Kingdom used to be able to do it, but they're now too busy arguing with each other over the definition of what a woman is. Keir Starmer needs to be a good little boy, he needs to be quiet, and he needs to agree with everything that Donald Trump does and everything that Donald Trump says. Be a good boy, pull the victim card on your face like you always do, you know. Talk about what this happened and good boy. Be quiet, good boy. The rest of the world needs to worry about being more equal than others. Now, as far as the South American presidents go, you know what's going to happen. Like, you know what's going to happen. Like, come on, why would you sit there and sort of, egg him on? Colombia might be next. The fact that they've jumped over Mexico to get to Venezuela, Colombia might be next. Cuba is definitely next. Because Cuba doesn't have anything. Cuba doesn't have, they don't even have Wi-Fi out there. Even like electricity, even like food is scarce out there. I don't really know what Cuba is doing, talking about this and talking about that. Be quiet. Be quiet. You will end up in a Nike tech fleece. Be quiet. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. That is the whole point of this exercise. Because when Vladimir takes over parts of the Ukraine, everybody calls him names. No one does anything. When Donald Trump takes over parts of Venezuela, sorry, let me rephrase that. When Donald Trump abducts a president, a foreign president from Venezuela, nobody says anything. Now, if you're condemning what Donald Trump did, if you're saying, well, what's the point of having a sovereign country if another country can come over and do what they want? Then you should hold Putin to the same standards, but you won't. But you won't. And Zelensky can come around and ask for more money as many times as he wants, and the British taxpayers will just continue giving him more money as many times as he requested. But you don't have any skin in the game. You don't have any skin in the game if you're not the United States of America with Night Stalkers. You don't have any skin in the game. We'll see what happens to Greenland. I think Greenland is going too far. Cuba, Colombia, I think that's justifiable. But Greenland, I think it's going a little bit too far. Guys, welcome to Vibe Talkers. It's 2026. It's snowing outside. It's cold as hell. I've had to turn off the heating. I've had to turn off the fan just so that it doesn't interfere with the microphone quality. Please let me know what you guys think about this so far. Any Venezuelans, South Americans, Latinas, Latinos, comment in the section. Let us know what's going on. 2026, if you're from Venezuela, are you happy that a dictator has been removed? All animals are equal. Some are just more equal than others. If you haven't read the book, you need to go and read the book. Actually, I watched the video when I was in school. When I was in school and when I was learning English, we watched the cartoon. And I now have PTSD and I'm permanently scarred for life.